Hello everyone and welcome to the Proponomics Advent Calendar for the 15th of December 2023. And today I'm talking about house building targets and what's measured in house building targets and how much or little faith we should have in them. So you'll probably know that house building targets were in the sort of 250,000 region up to about 10 years ago. That moved forward to 300,000 and even 350,000 per year. And one of the latest forecasts revealed they think only about 110,000 homes will be completed this year. So first of all, we just need to dwell on that word homes a little bit, because what does it mean? Does it mean houses? Does it mean 3-bedroom semi-detached houses near good schools? No, not necessarily at all. Of course, it just means delivered units. And that can even be, in some iterations of the figures, HMO rooms counting. I spoke with an HMO expert a couple of weeks ago. The video is on the channel on our Sunday special live. And she was saying that around about 5% of new homes targets are actually new HMO rooms delivered. Now, the most recent figures that we have, and the metric that I prefer to use, is net new additional dwellings. And this is the best metric to look at the Office for National Statistics and on the government website. Why is that? Well, it's telling us what sort of increase there is in the housing stock. Is it great to build 250,000 homes but have to demolish 200,000 old ones? Or would you rather build 150,000 net new additional dwellings? Of course, you'd prefer the 150,000. It's helping to ease the housing crisis somewhat. So, the number for 21 to 22 of net new additional dwellings was actually 232,820. which is a significant number and much more than you'd believe, and much more than the forecast for the next 12 months apart from anything else. How did that actually break down is the next question. Well, around 210,000 new build homes, and then 22,770 were gained between change of use between non-domestic to residential. And then 4,870 were gained from converting houses to flats. So that gives you a little idea of how many house to flat conversions there are at the moment and how many more there might be after the government has entered into a consultation following the budget, Jeremy Hunt's autumn statement this year, where there's a consultation on permitted development rights from converting a house into flats, 2 flats or more. There are 780 that are listed as other gains, and of course that's not a significant number, but it is interesting to see what they put in brackets on the government website when they're talking other gains. What do they mean? They mean caravans, houseboats and things like that. So these are getting counted in the housing targets. There's no breakdown in here for HMO rooms or similar. So we don't actually know, and I don't know whether the figures really know how many there are in there. And then they were offset by 5,700 demolitions, which doesn't sound like an awful lot. But of course, if you look back at the figures over the period of about the last 40 or 50 years, what you find out is that in the 1970s, we were building an awful lot of new homes, 400,000 or more in some years, but we were also demolishing an awful lot. Now, why were we? Well, prefabs that were supposed to have a lifespan of 20 years, by then had been up for 25 to 30 to 35 years potentially. And so, in theory, they needed to be demolished, although obviously some are still standing today. And 400,000 built with 200,000 demolished is not as good as 250,000 net new build dwellings. So some bright spark decided in about 1980 that the best thing to do was not to knock anything down ever again, which makes sense in the short term, but of course in the long term leaves you with a number of problems that you've got to solve in the housing market. So those are the numbers up to the end of 2022. They're a long way behind. It's typical governmental once-a-year issuance of figures, and they're not in a hurry to issue the next ones, of course. We do know that in the first quarter of 2023 that we completed around about 45,000 homes in the UK as a whole, and the vast majority of those were concentrated in England. So particularly Wales is a long way behind on the number of units it's delivered. It's only delivered a couple of thousand new units of those in the last 12 months. So pretty disappointing. Wales really do need to pull their socks up on this. Now, You've got a Labour government waiting in the wings, of course. They're not guaranteed to win the next election, but Keir Starmer has already targeted 1.5 million homes over a 5-year parliament, which I think is very ambitious, because apart from anything else, that won't mean 300,000 a year straight away, because that target won't be able to be hit. There'll need to be policy changes. There'll need to be money pumped in. And of course, I would imagine what they're going to be focusing on is the social housing sector. Angela Rayner is extremely passionate about building council housing, so there'll need to be some kind of funding and encouragement for local authorities to make sure they can hit their targets, or else it's going to be working with private developers and giving them incentives, or at least providing the councils with the firepower to be able to buy or forward fund those schemes, or however they think they're going to be delivered. It's not out of the realms of all possibility, but where the money comes from will, of course, worry the international bond markets apart from anything else. So I'd love to see it done, but I expect they're not going to be focusing on making it easier for planning to be granted, although what would need to be done apart from anything else is planning would need to be more centralised. They've tried localised targets. I'm not sure that heaps the pressure on the local authorities in the same way, because lots of local authorities were missing their targets, and now the targets have been scrapped, potentially as the Conservatives try and appease their traditional user base in the home counties who just don't want any homes built anywhere near their own places and just spend the time moaning about the traffic in general, apart from anything else. But those are the targets as we might see if we see the betting favourites get into number 10 Downing Street. We'll be seeing if they can deliver on those home targets. I doubt they can, because I don't think we have the resources and the skills, and I'm not sure where the funding's coming from, but I'm sure they'll have a plan around that. And I'd hope to see that they can address the problems in that sector, because there's such an incredible shortage in social. It makes the shortages in the private sector look relatively manageable. So that's house building targets in the UK. I'll see you again tomorrow.